Hey everyone, I hope you're having a fantastic day so far. Today, I want to talk about the art of influential communication as a leader. Now, why is this important? Now, I keep on talking about this whole definition of what I deem as leadership, which is living by example. Now, what is living? Living is doing, having, or being in this space, in this realm, in this sphere as a person. And if you're doing something by example, you're doing things to a certain standard. And so when you do things by a standard, okay, or if you are the standard, so to speak, you are creating influence. It was John C. Maxwell who once said, leadership is simply influence, nothing more and nothing less. If we think about the Peter Northhouse definition, he's talking about the fact that leadership is a process whereby an individual influences a group of individuals towards a common goal. Like, understand that breakdown. So really, it is about influence, but it's being that example. And for me, what I preach about, what I talk about in my framework is really the 5 pillars of mastery, so to speak, okay? Audacious authenticity, crystal clarity, considered communication, voracious vitality, and persuasive perception. To me, if you can really hone down those 5 different pillars, you become an influential leader. What do I mean by this? If you are audaciously authentic, okay, if you have bravery in terms of being yourself, that is an attractive currency, my friend. People are yearning for this. Everyone's trying to be authentic on LinkedIn, on the Instas, on the TikToks, whatever it may be. But there is still a layer where it doesn't feel as authentic because, again, you could argue I'm doing this right now. We're playing up to the cameras. We're playing up to typing or whatever it may be. But if you are yourself, if people can see that you're comfortable being yourself, that is attractive. That is magnetic. You're going to draw people in and you're going to repel people away, which is exactly what you want. There has to be clarity of your message, which we'll get to. Now, of course, when we come to authenticity, this is where you're getting to a stage of managing something known as self-monitoring. Okay. Now, if you over self-monitor, you're not being yourself. If you under self-monitor, you may be perceived as someone who's too raw or pig-like or whatever it may be. There's a happy medium where in order for you to function in society, you can still be yourself, but you can still be, again, you have a certain level of etiquette or have a certain level of professionalism or whatever it may be. The point being made is that there is a happy medium. Now, authenticity really comes down to not being able to self-alienate yourself. So really rating yourself and valuing yourself and understanding that actually you have self-worth. This is where your esteem is up. This is where you're moving towards this level of transcendence that Maslow speaks about. So you don't alienate yourself from yourself. You understand that you have value. The second thing is that you're not easily manipulated by external influences. You do things because it makes sense for your value system. It's that simple. Or you do things because you want to do things. You're not easily being pulled. And the third thing is living authentically. That is living by your values. What are your values? Doing things that are aligned to you. Okay. Doing things that are important to you. So context will give you that information. Now, of course, if your values and the values of the organization as the leader or the group or whatever it may be are the same or aligned, you got a match made in heaven. You got a match made in heaven. I wrote about this on, I believe it was, I haven't actually done the post yet, but I'm going to be posting this at some point on LinkedIn where I talk about how you can align your personal values to your organizational values. That alignment means that the vision is easier to achieve and you can move at a similar pace as well. So that's authenticity. That's the first sort of like core step. The second step is if you are authentic to self and that's aligned to the organization as the leader, then what ends up happening is that you can have clarity when it comes to your communication. And why is clarity important? If your communication is muddied, it's messy, it is unclear, then what's going to happen is people are going to be confused. People are not going to be motivated. There's going to be less productivity because people are going to be doing so many different things. People won't know what to do. Whereas if you create a clear structure where it comes down to your vision, your values, your velocity, your objectives, the KPIs, the key performance indicators that align to these objectives, and have a cadence and a rhythm of communication, whether that's through meetings or emails or bulletins or workshops or whatever it may be, if that is structured a certain way, succinctly and neatly in a cadence, in a rhythm, then you've got a match made in heaven. You have a match made in heaven. And so when it comes to communication, you have to be in a space where you are comfortable writing. This is why I write on LinkedIn. This is part of the reason, at least anyway. I like to get comfortable just really expressing my thoughts and ideas. This is part of the reason why I started YouTube. I went to a Les Brown event. He said, I've got a great speaking voice. And I thought, why not? I need to get on YouTube. So I started speaking. But practicing the art of being clear is what allows you to win. Because if you're authentic, but then you create that crystal clarity through the written word or through speech or even through listening, then yeah, you're creating a match made in heaven. So crystal clarity is fundamental. So make sure when it comes to your vision, i.e. where you want to get to, your mission, how you're going to do it, your values, what you deem as important, as well as things like your operating model, your KPIs and your objectives, make sure there is no room for error. It doesn't have to be smart, but it needs to definitely be specific. It needs to be quantifiable in some way, shape or form. And it definitely needs to make sense for what you're trying to do. So moving on from considered communication, I was going to say crystal clarity is considered communication. I just said it. And really and truly, all that really means is making sure that you adopt this level of emotional intelligence. Okay. Emotional intelligence is essentially where you're able to interpret your emotions or how you feel, so to speak, in context to people within situations and yourself. This is looking at, and I've broken this down before, how aware you are, how self-aware you are of what you're doing. How do you manage that information based on that awareness? Are you aware of what other people are doing, how they maneuver and behave, and how do you respond to those different nuances? But underlying all of this stuff, if there's no level of motivation, if there's no level of will, no inspiration behind what you're doing, is going to be very difficult. And so there has to be at the root of it, this level to want to better perform, to work to a higher standard. This is what I talk about in terms of performance. Performance is really measuring a standard. So when it comes back to this whole influence piece, you have to be able to understand human nature and your own nature and being able to maneuver within that space. This is where self-monitoring comes into play. This is where listening comes into play. This is where good questioning comes into play, empowering questions. This is where feedback and summarizing comes into play. This is where body language comes into play. This is where what you wear comes into play. All of this stuff comes into play. Communication is key. And so it defines, in many ways, your personal brand, how people see you, which we'll get to in a second. So that is communication. When we move on from communication, of course, how you communicate really is determined by the energy levels that you have. And so there has to be a voracious vitality about it. In other words, a gusto, not an aggressive energy, but a spirited energy, okay? That allows people to understand there is not necessarily a youthfulness, but a buzz about you. You know, you could keep on going without coffee or whatever it may be, or Pro Plus or whatever people take these days. Okay, I stay away from all of that stuff. Fun fact, I've never had coffee before. So this voracious vitality gives you life. And so that really comes down to your lifestyle. This is why I said it's living by example. How do you keep your mind right? This may be through prayer, meditation. I was going to say starving, but really I meant fasting. Fasting. Like, these are all things that you can do to keep you supple. Exercise, okay? Making sure that you're getting, again, weights into your workout, as well as cardio as well. But weights is very important when it comes to maintaining muscle. Making sure that you eat foods that are not bleached or overly colored, or are low in carbs and higher in proteins and good fats and vegetables, so to speak. Yes, I know it's easy for me to say this stuff, and you do this in moderation, so to speak. Any of you will be like, forget moderation. Do what needs to be done. And I hear him. I agree with him. But of course, some people are on the journey. Some people are on the journey. And it's recognizing that if you are improving upon that journey and you understand where you need to flex here and there, so be it. But you're living a life of voracious vitality. It is so important because people can see this. Look after yourselves, people, because that also creates sort of influence. Think about it. If you got all four of these things patterned, if you got all four of these things on point, people will respect you. What? You come into the room looking all, nice, like muscular, sexy, whatever it may be, and you are yourself and you talk clearly and you make people feel heard. Are you crazy? That is influence in itself, because people, I want to be like this person. I want to listen to what they say because they have something that I want. And so with that in mind, we create this whole sort of magnetic feel. But we haven't finished because we've got one more pillar, and that is persuasive perception. This is your ability to understand how you are perceived and use that in a way where you can influence. It's very simple. And this is where we need to develop strong personal brands, whether this is offline or online. This is checking oneself. And this is where you need to do things like reviews, reflections, and digesting that information to understand how you can improve. But that perception can only be done when you garner that information from other people. This can be garnered from your direct reports, your colleagues, your co-workers, your supervisors, your other leaders or managers, coaches, mentors, therapists. All these people can give you this feedback, 360s. This stuff gives you information to help you understand how you can improve. And this is why you need other people to help you get that rest of information that you may be blind to, as they talk about in the Johari window, your blind spots, whatever it may be. So in order for you to minimize those blind spots, you get other people to help you improve your personal brand, i.e. your perception, so to speak, so you can become more persuasive and create more influence, which is that process of moving a group of people towards a common and shared goal. So as you can see, there's a whole, this is my framework, by the way, okay, copyright here. Well, the point being made is this is my 5 pillars of mastery, and that's how you create influence as a leader. This is everything that I really believe in, I discuss and I've talked through and walked through with some of the people I've worked with when it comes to my end clients and or coaching clients as well. So if this makes sense, try to apply at least one of these things into your life in order for you to become more influential, not just as a person, but as a leader, a person who lives by example. If this sounds good to you and you want to actually run through this framework, okay, and use this as a way to improve yourself as a person, as a leader, then let's have a discovery call. Let's talk about some of the issues that you're going through, and let's see if I can partner with you to help you overcome some of these challenges as well. If you want to see more videos centered around leadership, life management, and portfolio careers, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. And as always, my friends, understand, reach, and expand. Peace.